Welcome to the Trump Impeachment Trial Review. I'm Jessica Kwong, and I have two guests with me here today to unpack the impeachment of President Donald J. Trump. I have a Democrat, Mo Vela. He used to serve as the senior advisor to Vice President Joe Biden, as well as Vice President Al Gore. And I have a Republican, Lisa Schifrin, who's a Republican speechwriter and serves as a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. Why don't we start with how we got here in the first place? When President Trump called Ukraine's president to ask for him to investigate Joe Biden and withheld aid to the country, was that a quid pro quo? Why don't we start with you, Lisa?
I would say two things. One, he was acting in the interest of our country in the sense that we had started giving a lot of aid to Ukraine. Ukraine was a famously corrupt place, and there was evidence that Ukraine had meddled in the 2016 election. I think Trump took that fairly personally and wanted it investigated. But also, and most importantly, Joe Biden's son, Hunter, appeared to have made tremendous amounts of money that was kind of raked off from U.S. foreign aid, working for Burisma, as we've all learned. And that constitutes tremendous corruption. And it seems to me that we want to know if that's where our foreign aid tax dollars are going and how that works. Whether Joe Biden is merely the former vice president or whether he is a candidate for president this time.
Okay. Mo, what are your thoughts
Wow,
on this?
where do you start? That was a whole bunch of non-facts. So let's get to the truth and the facts with all due respect. First and foremost, Ukraine meddling in the elections, there is not one credible stitch of evidence of that, and you know that. So I'm not even sure why you would say that to the viewers, but that's just not true. That is just factually not true.
That's
Wait a
an
minute,
assertion.
I didn't interrupt you. Let me finish. But that's not true. That's debunked and completely not true. Second, the fact that Hunter Biden got on a board at Burisma, if you want to go there, let's go there. We can spend the entire 30 minutes talking about Ivanka Trump's 9 patents that she received from China while she works in the White House. You really want to go there? And you want to talk about all the Trump children and all the children of Republicans and Democrats who may have been put on a board or received some type of a maybe favorable treatment because of their parents being famous? You really want to go there?
Well, we're just talking
waste of
about
time.
the
Yeah,
Trump.
but wait a minute. I'm refuting things that aren't true.
But you didn't refute that. You asked me if I wanted to go there. The answer is yes, I would like to go there.
Okay, well, we'll go there because I want to hear about how you feel about Ivanka Trump's patents.
That has nothing to do with this
No,
impeachment hearing.
no. If we're gonna, you can't have a double standard. You got to hold everybody
No, but
equally
we're
to
here
the
to talk
same
about
standard.
the impeachment.
If the Bidens have nothing to do with the impeachment trial, let's be factual.
if we're looking
the
into
president
why
got
the
on the
president
phone. The
actually
president
was
got on the
interested in
phone
this.
with the president of another country. I've served twice in the White House. I have been in those rooms when our presidents talk to foreign leaders. I know exactly what happens in those phone calls. Okay? And I will tell you something. 2 tenures that I've served my nation in the White House, I have never heard anybody, and I find it offensive that you would sit here and say that he was doing that for the country's best
So,
interest.
Lisa, what was he doing when he asked for this request that Joe Biden be investigated? How do you think our country would have benefited from that?
I think two things. One, if in fact large amounts of our foreign aid are going to corrupt countries, which is of course always partly true under any president because lots of countries are corrupt and we have real reasons to give foreign aid, and it's always because we want something, and that is in fact what a quid pro quo is. We always give money because we want something in return, whether it's favorable treatment economically or politically or whatever. So that's point one. It's worth knowing in this particular case, it's unclear, actually, I think, whether Ukraine did or did not interfere in the election. No, both sides assert something different. You don't know, and I don't
No,
know.
ma'am.
So I would leave it
The
at that.
intelligence officials have made it very clear.
The intelligence officials coming
I
out
trust
of
them. I respect
yes,
them.
the ones coming out of the Obama
No, ma'am.
administration.
The current intelligence
no,
officials.
that's just not true.
No, that is true.
Name one.
Ma'am, I don't need to name intelligence
No, but you
officials. I
do.
respect them. You are actually putting forward a falsity to the viewers about our intelligence
I
officials.
just don't think that. No, I'm putting forward I am putting forward
Can you name somebody who has said that a credible intelligence official that said that Ukraine meddled in the election?
I think we heard a bunch of lawyers say that today and
Lawyers,
yesterday.
those aren't intelligence officials. That's my former law partner.
Mo, do you know Mr. Biden personally? Do you still
I
keep
do.
in touch with him?
I
And
do.
you, have you talked to him about the impeachment trial? And do you think this is going to help him at all in the election? I mean, we have an election coming up later this year.
To be honest with you, I know Joe Biden well enough to know this. He would not find anything positive or celebratory about an impeachment trial of a Democrat or a Republican. I lived through the Clinton impeachment. I worked in the White House during the Clinton impeachment. Trust me, nobody wins in an impeachment trial. We shouldn't even have to be having, this is a removal trial, by the way. The president has been impeached and will forever have been impeached. That cannot be reversed. He will always be referred to as an impeached president. What this is a removal trial. I happen to be an attorney. I don't know, I'm not an impeachment trial expert, but I will tell you this is a removal trial, right? To determine his guilt or his acquittal, right? Or lack of removal from office.
So, Lisa,
I just want to stipulate there. It's my understanding that the previous session in the House of Representatives was not an impeachment. It was an impeachment hearing. It was not an impeachment per se. This is the impeachment per se. Whether he's impeached or not, it doesn't matter.
He's impeached.
I think the fact is, you're right, it's a removal trial.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so politically suspect and in fact offensive.
Oh, it's not suspect. Listen.
so deeply suspect.
The president
You know
made
why
a
it's
phone
so-
call. Again, let me go back. I've been in the room with presidents
So have I.
when they're on these foreign calls. In the White House, you have?
I worked in the White House.
Okay, well, who'd you work for?
George H.W. Bush.
Oh, and I loved him, and I admire him so much. I think the world of him. That was the last time we've had statesmen, in a long
so
time.
Lisa, when when Americans look back at Trump's tenure, do you think that this is going to define him, or
Not even remotely. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
One, he's done so many other things, including getting an economy moving that was stagnant beyond
That's an
belief.
Obama economy.
Two, well, nobody in the world believes that. Two,
I do, so
excuse me.
economies
Sorry,
are cyclical.
Well, maybe not, but
Ooh.
I think
Well, when we
economies
look back at
also
Clinton,
actually.
did that define his presidency, right?
Economies also actually respond to policy, and deregulation and cutting taxes, I think, set out the animal spirits in this economy that have caused this massive job growth that we haven't seen really in
That
20,
also is not
25
factual,
years.
with all due respect. Barack Obama created more jobs.
Well, we can't argue the economy is good
No,
right
no,
now.
I'm not.
right?
That's not what I said. I said when you're talking about this explosive number of jobs, in comparison to Barack Obama, it is not more jobs created.
Okay.
That's a fact.
Well, let's see how voters feel about that. But two, and this is really important, the reason this will not define him is because it started literally day one. As we know, people in the White House, NSC officials, CIA people, literally the day the president was inaugurated, started sending out their tweets and their messages about the impeachment starts now. That was Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, a bunch of political opponents of the president knew from day one that they were going to lead this to impeachment. I personally thought, gee, surely they're not this stupid. And of course I was wrong. Because I think this will define Nancy Pelosi's tenure. I think in many, many ways it will define the Democrats in the next election. Do I think it will define the president? No, and I don't think it defined Bill Clinton either. In fact, for many of the same reasons. I was not a fan of Bill Clinton, but that was a silly impeachment. And this is less silly and more vicious, but also inappropriate.
Mo, you were saying that we shouldn't be having an impeachment trial, right? I mean, is that because we're having an election later this year? I mean,
No, we shouldn't be having an impeachment trial because I'm baffled when somebody as brilliant as Lisa sits in front of a camera and with a straight face can say that this man did nothing wrong. Let's go through the facts. He called a foreign leader, a president of a foreign country, and literally held up taxpayer money, United States taxpayer money, so that he could have personal and political gain. It is as clear as day. So to sit anywhere and say that that's okay is just nonsensical. Of course it's wrong. And you know what? You'd be more credible, with all due respect, is if you just looked in the camera and said, he should have never said that. He should have never done that. Is it impeachable? That's not for me to decide, right? That's for the senators and the House to decide. But when somebody sits down and won't even acknowledge, you don't call a foreign leader and threaten to withhold aid.
He didn't threaten to withhold aid.
Oh my goodness
Did you read the
gracious.
transcript?
Yes, did you read the
I
transcript?
did.
Because
He
if
did
you
not
read that
threaten. No,
transcript,
no.
it is as clear as day.
The entire concept of withholding aid was something that was discussed in the White House between Trump officials. He
So
did
you
not-
don't believe John Bolton, your fellow
Do
Republican?
you know what John
Do
Bolton
you
wrote?
believe your fellow Republican, John
Do
Bolton?
you know what Bolton wrote?
Do you
No,
believe your
it
fellow
hasn't been-
Republican? No, it does matter,
When
because
I-
John
no, no,
Bolton
when I-
just has in a manuscript that
That
he
you haven't
says.
seen and I haven't seen. So I will believe or not believe Bolton when we see what he wrote.
So you're calling anybody who read it a liar?
Nobody has read it.
No, I'm just-
The New
I'm
York
just wondering.
Times, which referred to it, didn't quote it.
Well-
If he did say that, are you okay with that? That he did that?
Do I think it's okay for the president to leverage foreign aid towards some political end that I think is actually not a bad thing? Yep, sure do.
Oh, wow.
Well,
And how
let's-
many times have you seen a president do that in your lifetime?
Oh, 4 million times.
Really?
And
Name,
in
can you
fact-
name them
in
for the
fact,
people,
you
please?
know what? Let me
Could
just
you
say-
name a time where
let
a
me
president of the
just
United
say,
States threatened
what I
a
find
foreign
it-
leader with aid
nobody
for
was
their
threatened.
own personal and political gain?
But nobody was threatened.
Really?
Really.
Wow.
Really.
Okay.
Well, let's go
Well,
back
There's
to,
a transcript. The transcript.
I
is
read
avail-
it.
The transcript is available to everyone in this audience.
Yeah.
It's available to you, to me,
And
to
over
all
a
of us.
majority of the United States people either want him removed or they agree that he did something wrong. So you know what? You're in the minority.
So I read different polls than you do.
No, I think you read things the way you want them to be read.
I think that's true
not
about
what's
you.
on the paper.
No, I think that's the same
I
thing could
heard,
be
and
said
I
for
also heard
you.
the phone call. Did you hear that? I guess. Did we
Yeah,
hear a
of
phone
course.
call? Yeah.
We all heard the phone call.
Yeah.
well, Mo, just going back to the question, you said we shouldn't be having an impeachment trial, right?
Yeah.
That was your position, but
I-
we are.
If this president had not engaged in such egregious,
But since he did, we
violative
should be having
behavior,
this trial.
we have to have this trial. But I'm saying we shouldn't be having to have it if he would just act like a president has always acted in our nation. George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, you name it, Democrat or Republican, they have never behaved in such a horribly despicable, egregious manner. They don't talk like that. They were decent.
So you
Your old
disagree-
boss was a man I admired greatly because he represented the greatest ideals of our nation. He served in our military. He was an American hero. He was a statesman. My former two bosses, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama.
Do you disagree
both.
with Clinton's impeachment? That shouldn't have happened, or?
No, I don't disagree at all. I was subject to those subpoenas every day. Let me tell you, you want to know? You're talking to somebody who's
No, I'm
been
sorry,
there.
could you clarify that? You're saying it was okay to impeach Bill Clinton for...
It was okay to have a trial. Absolutely it was. I don't play the game you guys play. If Bill Clinton lied under oath, which he did, he apologized to the American people. This man has not even...
He apologized to the American
Your
people.
man hasn't even
So late in the
acknowledged that he
game.
said anything wrong.
No, he released a transcript.
It's all about character.
He released a transcript. And you know what? I don't think it's about character. I think it's about manner. So if you want to ask me
Manner?
if you want to ask me if I think Trump is sometimes vulgar, of course he is. Of
And
course
you're
he
okay
is.
with that?
I'll tell you why I am.
Wow, that's really
Because
disappointing.
I have actually watched, as a conservative, I have
Mm.
watched so many Republicans who I think are impressive, lovely men.
Mm.
Both Bushes, Mitt Romney, lose debate after debate, and
Mm.
election after election, and fail to actually enact an agenda because they're so delicate and they have such nice manners. So I think sometimes a street fighter is a good thing.
Wow. Well, that's good to know, isn't it?
Right. We're going to take a...
That must be the New York versus Texas difference, because we actually believe in human decency and treating people with respect and dignity.
Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with Mo Vella and Lisa Schifrin to continue talking about Donald Trump's impeachment trial.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate, and it's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels. Thank you.
You got a king?
Go fish. In your face, in your face.
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back to the Trump impeachment trial review. We're going to continue with our guests, Democrat Mo Vella, who is a senior advisor used to be senior advisor for Joe Biden and Al Gore, and Republican speechwriter Lisa Schifrin. We're going to continue by talking about whether this is a waste of taxpayer money. You know, Americans have a lot of expectations of the Trump administration, and a lot of money has been spent on, you know, not only the Mueller investigation, but now the impeachment trial, and we have an election coming up in months. So what are your thoughts on that? Is this worth our money?
I think it's not worth our money and certainly not worth our time. I think that we do have an election coming up in 8 months. That is the appropriate venue for the American people to decide whether they like this behavior, don't like it, find it objectionable, are willing to live with it, whatever. This is a sideshow. Ratings, nobody's watching. I think, not that I care, but I think this is going to hurt the Democrats beyond anything they could have thought of doing, because there's no policy coming out of the House of Representatives. And really, we have issues in our country that need to be dealt with.
I don't know where to begin. Okay, let's start with the last thing first. No policy coming out of the House of Representatives. Lisa, please, with all due respect, go do a little research. There are literally more than 100 bills that under Speaker Pelosi's leadership has passed the House. They're stuck in Moscow Mitch McConnell's hands. So let's not go there. That is just factually incorrect. The second piece is this a waste of money? I love hearing a Republican have the guts to go into the public eye and say that this is a waste of money. I lived through 8 years of the Clinton-Gore presidency. Do you know how many investigations your party did? Do you know how much money your party spent? Do you know how many times we had to respond to subpoenas because of your party? And now you have the hypocrisy to sit here and say that this is a waste of money when we have the most corrupt, indecent, inhumane, racist, divisive president in the history of the United States. And you're worried about one little impeachment trial? I don't remember hearing you concerned when you did what? 10, 12 investigations last time?
Well, surely we've had as many
And I
as
might
that.
remind you there
as
were
many of that
zero under
already.
Barack Obama. Zero.
That's right,
Because
zero investigations because...
that's what you call a decent man.
No,
and a
it's
decent,
because...
incredible presidency.
Because Republicans backed off. Not because there wasn't plenty to investigate.
because there was nothing to investigate, my friend.
Fast and Furious, the Iran deal.
Why didn't you investigate it?
Because I think they decided to back off, let him govern, let the voters decide who next.
And they did. He
And
got
look who you
reelected
got.
beautifully.
Look who you got next. You got Donald Trump because people were so disgusted with what transpired.
No, you might have been disgusted because of the color of his skin.
No.
But it was certainly not because of the
No, I
policies
think the
we
color
enacted.
of his skin
the best
was something
president
nobody
in modern
objected to.
times, arguably. Yeah.
Well, you know, if you're just the average American or any American is sitting at home and, you know, the economy is good, you know, do you think the impeachment trial is going to have an effect on the 2020 election?
I have no idea. I'm sorry. You can go first if you'd like.
No, go ahead.
I don't have any idea whether the impeachment trial is going to affect anybody, to be honest with you. I don't have any way to prognosticate.
How about Donald Trump? It's going to affect him?
But I will say this to you. If you want to keep going to the economy, I don't deny that the economy is doing well. I'm not one of the Democrats who says that that's not true. That is true. Here's the problem. It's only working well for a faction of the United States population. There are people, working class and middle class people, and she knows this.
No,
that
working class
don't-
income is
no,
up
working class
far
people and
more-
middle class people are not being positively impacted by
That's
this
just
economy.
not true.
There's
That's just
always
not
gonna
true.
be-
You
It's
can create a
literally not
job,
true.
but if it's for $8 an hour,
But they're not.
you
They're
might
all
as well
for-
not have
But
created
they all
it.
turn out to be for $15 an hour. Because
the
there's
jobs
a
he's
labor
created are all
shortage.
$15 an hour?
Mostly.
Really? Do you have statistics to
Amazon,
back that
Google,
up?
not in my hands, but sure, I could get you those.
Goodness gracious.
I'm sorry, what was the original question?
For the average American at home, the economy's great, and then they're watching this
Is this gonna
impeachment
impact
trial. It's going to impact
The election. I think many people are disgusted and will vote for Trump, who might not otherwise have voted for Trump, will show up, who might not have voted Democrat, but wouldn't have bothered to show up the other way. I also think that this essentially devalues our government and the sense that people have that when they vote for and elect a president, that president is the president for the next 4 years.
So do you not believe in the Constitution?
Of course I believe in the
There's an
Constitution.
impeachment process
Yes, there
embedded
is.
in the Constitution
And
because
yet,
our forefathers
it can
were
be-
wise and visionary enough
Yes.
to recognize that one day a man named Donald J. Trump would call the president of Ukraine and threaten him to
So much
withhold
stronger. That's
very
aid
visionary.
for political
Yes.
and personal gain.
You know what? Impeachment is a mechanism. It can be used for good or when necessary or for ill.
That's why it's
And-
only happened 3 times in the history of our country.
And this is a joke.
No,
This
it is not.
This
It
is
is
actually
necessary
3 times
to do.
on a sliding scale down toward
How embarrassing
irrelevant.
for your
And
president,
that
by
would
the
be
way.
4 times, by the
How
way. No, no,
embarrassing
4
for your
times.
president.
Surely
He's
you
also
know
your
it's 4
president, though.
times.
He's not my president, honestly.
Surely you know there have been
Let me tell you
4
why I say
impeachments.
that, okay?
Okay.
Because I've worked in there, and I respect the presidency and the office of the presidency.
Okay.
This man, I have never in my life, like I would love for Lisa to look in the camera tonight and say, what would cause her to abandon what her mother taught her, I hope she taught her, as a child? You don't lie. This man lies daily. You don't say negative things about disabled people. He mocked a disabled
But,
reporter.
as an
You
American,
don't
this is the
denounce
president of the United
war
States.
heroes. He made fun of a Gold Star family. You don't sexually harass.
What does
and
this have to do with impeachment?
Because
This is just
the
drama.
problem
This is
is
just the narrative.
Drama. You
No,
call
this is
sexual
the
harassment and paying a
narrative.
prostitute money while you're married drama? Really?
Really?
Is that a value you abide by?
Not
Is that what the Republican Party stands for now? You're okay with men, married men, hiring a prostitute
No, and I didn't like
to
it
have
when Bill
sex with
Clinton
them.
got a blowjob in the Oval Office from
But he
an
didn't pay
intern
for it.
either. Oh, and that's the difference? That,
No, I'm
really,
joking.
Far better to pay
I
for it.
denounced Bill Clinton's behavior.
Better
I
to
have
pay
not
for it.
defended Bill Clinton tonight and his blowjob. You are the one defending a man who has slept with a woman outside of his marriage, who
what?
paid a prostitute to have sex with him while he was married, who
This is the
actually has
con-
sexually
this is-
harassed Miss
excuse me.
Teen America
This
pageant
is the
members.
kind of
And we
diversion
could go on for hours.
that we hear
Mo, do you think this
endlessly.
is a partisan impeachment? Do you think it's a partisan
Did
impeachment?
you just hear that narrative? Of course
Absolutely
it
not.
is.
So let's go back.
It's
gonna-
100% partisan
So-
because there will be some Democrat votes to acquit. There will be no Republican votes to impeach.
Well, I'm glad she has
That's
a
about-
magic ball,
I
but
do.
I don't go there because I know better than to predict anything like that. But here's the deal. I'm an attorney. Let's talk facts here, and let's talk about actually true legal matters for a second, because that's what an impeachment trial is. It's a legal proceeding. So let's talk about the facts.
It's really
Okay,
not
well, it's
exactly
not a-
legal. No, it's legal, but
The
it
Chief
is
Justice
also.
of the United States is presiding. It's not a legal proceeding
But it
according
is
to
also
Lisa.
highly
But anyway,
political.
so if I could just
It is
finish.
inherently political.
So
The
here's
nation
the
is
deal.
very
Let
divided
me
right
tell you,
now,
one
so-
of the classes you
go
take
there
in law
instead of
school,
this?
so your viewers are fully informed. One of the classes you take in law school is you learn how to select a jury, right? It's called voir dire or voir dire, right? And in the voir dire process, half of the Democrats in the Senate and half of the Republicans in the Senate would not even be qualified to sit in this pool, right? Because they have already predetermined the outcome. That you would not have been selected to sit in your local jury pool of your county court if they acted like half of the senators are right now, Republicans and Democrats.
Which is to say that it is partisan. That was
No,
the entire question, and
that
that's
proves
the
that it's
answer.
not partisan.
No, I think it proves that it is
no,
partisan.
it proves that these people are not providing the
Not
American
only is
people
it partisan,
a fair
it is
and
inherently
imbalanced
partisan.
trial.
It is inherently partisan.
I
Really?
believe the nation is really at the most divided it's ever been, almost. I mean, in my
No
memory,
doubt
at least.
about it.
Maybe I'm not sure in your
I
memory.
think
No doubt about it.
memory, that's one thing. I believe there was a period in the late 1850s and early 1860s before the Civil War when we were,
Before-
I think more divided than this. But yes, it's
Right.
very, very divided, and there's very little common ground, and there's very little sympathy, and there really are competing narratives where we disagree about the facts. And
But facts can't be interpreted
There's
differently.
disagreement
Facts
about
are
it.
facts.
There really is.
You can't
Facts-
disagree on facts. Facts are facts.
only once they're really established, and almost all of the facts that
Well,
you
they're
cited
never going to
tonight.
be established to
No,
your
no.
satisfaction because,
No, it's-
again, I go back to you're okay with a lack of decency and a lack of humanity.
Oh,
and
I don't think
am
so.
in shock
See,
that the
that's the kind of-
Republican Party has gotten to this point.
That's a
It's-
kind of
breaks
nasty.
my heart, honestly.
That's a nasty, emotional.
Nasty.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Oh,
Oh,
my
you're
God. What's nasty
heartless.
is when
you're
your guy
heartless.
paid a prostitute to have sex with him while he was married. That's nasty.
Well, I want to go to
Because he was the first
own it,
president
own
to
it,
do that.
acknowledge, say, that was wrong.
What about Jeffrey Epstein?
Say, that
Now,
was
let's talk
wrong.
about the
Mo, I wanna
Clintons on the
hear-
Epstein
Say to the
plane.
people, that
Nah,
was
That
wrong.
I wanna
was
hear-
not something I would approve of, but I don't care because that's not
but
what
that's
we're.
okay?
I didn't say it was okay.
Oh, well, say that.
You know what I think is
Let's
not
say
okay?
that. Come on.
I mean, Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Clinton on his plane, what, 30, 50
And
times?
Donald Trump, how many times at his home?
Nope.
How many times
Nope.
was Jeffrey Epstein at Mar-a-Lago?
No, he was kicked out. Oh, do you know about the time he was kicked out when he
Listen,
made
you want to
up
really
back
go
to
there.
the impeachment.
They were
So,
both friends
Mo.
with him, so, bad choice.
Mo, I want to
Oh,
hear.
I don't think so. I think
what is the
anybody-
Bad
highlight?
choice. They were
Google
both friends
it.
with him.
Audience,
I'm
Google
sorry,
it.
Jessica, what's
Really
your
quick,
question?
what's the highlight? Really quickly, what's the highlight of the impeachment trial so far in your mind? Just one moment, really quickly.
I thought the highlight for me personally,
Right.
I'll be honest with you, I thought that Speaker Pelosi's management and handling of this entire process has been such a demonstration of the power of what a woman can do as a leader. And I thought that any woman who's not proud of her as a woman is, frankly, I find disgusting.
What do you think, Lisa? What was your?
Well, as a disgusting woman, I thought she embarrassed women in power. I thought that was a really. I think the fact that this is what she spent her time doing instead of passing notable legislation is sad. But
Well,
I
I would
thought,
too, but there's no
excuse me,
Republican women even near a
Alan
leadership role.
Dershowitz. We'll see. Alan Dershowitz's summation the other night. I thought he made a bunch of genuinely brilliant points.
Yeah, the hypocrisy from that stance he had before.
Let her talk.
Yeah, no, I mean, he said the opposite of what he's been
No, he
saying.
didn't.
He called Donald Trump
Oh, I'll tell you,
corrupt
I'll
in
tell you.
2016,
That's
a mere 4 years ago. Did he not do that?
I don't know. I don't know. And I don't even care. He chose to defend Donald Trump on constitutional grounds because he understands that this is kind of a wild hunt that will, in fact, destroy constitutional government.
No, what destroys the Constitution is when people like you get into the public and say it's okay
No.
to threaten
Oh,
for
please.
political and personal gain. It's a complete violation of
Could
our
you name
Constitution.
that threat?
Right.
Just
Well-
name the
And it's
threat.
when you tell somebody,
Name
a
the
president of
threat.
a foreign country, I'm not giving you money until you do an
This is,
investigation
you know-
of
But he
my
never said
political
that.
opponent. He absolutely
Yeah,
said that,
luckily
Lisa, and
we
you
have
know
it-
he did.
You know what? You're
You
making this
know
up.
he
This
said that.
flamboyant.
Everyone that's
We
watching
know
the show
we know
knows that
we-
he said
No,
that.
everybody
Would love to
who's
keep
read
talking,
the transcript knows.
But we've
that-
got to cut it off.
Everyone who watching the show knows he said that.
This
Period.
has been a great discussion showing how divided our country is, fortunately or unfortunately. And we're done for today, but thank you for tuning in to the Trump impeachment trial, and we'll be back for another episode.
Never be lonely. 'Cause you are the sun. You never be lonely. Do you feel the morning rise, shining a light? Cover the tears, put a smile on your pretty face. Don't look down here, you are no strong.
Welcome back to the Trump impeachment trial review. I have now a new guest, Mike Porcelli. He's a radio talk show host, and he is a counterintelligence officer in the U.S. Army 50 years ago. So, Mike, I wanted to ask you what you think of this whole impeachment trial, especially since you're an independent.
I'm totally independent, and I think that this trial is the biggest disgrace that our government has ever put on in my lifetime.
Why is that?
Because it's totally unnecessary and improper. When Alan Dershowitz reprimands the Congress, the Democrats, for violating what impeachment was supposed to be as it was written into the Constitution, when Alan Dershowitz has to correct them and instruct them that they're going about it all wrong, then that's proof enough for me, and I think should be for anybody else, that this whole process is unwarranted.
Alan Dershowitz is on Trump's side, though, so, that's...
He's never been a Trump supporter. He's really on the side of the Constitution. He's a man that puts the law above personal opinions, personal loyalty. He's acting in this case to defend the Constitution.
Well, as an independent, first of all, do you live in New York, or what part?
I was born in New York, lived here all my life, except for 2 years I was in the Army, and went to school here. I teach here.
So New York is a blue state, so do people, when they find out you're independent, do they ask your opinions of Trump? And then, you come off somewhat as a Trump supporter, so what will you say to that?
I say I'm an American supporter, and if President Trump happens to be the person I feel is exercising the best American values and judgment and doing what's best for the country, then I support him.
What's the reason that you support him? I mean, there's so many arguments against him, and this quid pro quo talk, and that he has his own political future over the interests of American people. Why do you support him? What has he done to help the country?
You're right. There are so many arguments against him. Like he's a racist. He's anti-immigrant. He's anti-women. But there's no evidence of that. I know people that know him. I don't know him personally. I don't know his family. I met his son Donald Jr. once. Just briefly, so I don't really know them, but I know people that know him and his family, and everybody I know that does business, has done business with him in the past, has said he's a great guy to do business with. There are plenty of people that say he's not a good guy to do business with, but I'm told by my other friends that those are the people that didn't perform as they were expected to. So if you can't perform the job, you can't expect to get paid. And Trump seems to operate the same way I do. We work on what's performance. We judge performance.
So you're judging the economy, or what do you consider his accomplishments?
Everything. What he's done for the military.
And you're a veteran.
I'm a veteran, and previous presidents have not supported the military, no matter what they say they do. He really does support the military, not just with his words, but with his actions and with our money. He's put his money, our money, where his mouth is.
What specific actions would you say show that he supports the Army?
Look at the military budget. He's increased the military budget. He's put in place a lot of good military leaders. He's not afraid to take on the heat, for making a decision. He fires missiles when he thinks it's necessary to support this country's goals, and he had no problem taking out the leading terrorist in the world, and now everybody is supporting the terrorist. Not everybody, but the Democrats seem to be supporting the dead terrorist over our own troops.
So coming back to the impeachment trial, Trump's legal team is arguing that he did nothing wrong. Do you agree with that, or are you a little bit worried about?
I read the transcript. There's nothing in the transcript that says, "I won't give you the money unless you do something." The words are not in there. The people that say he's done a quid pro quo or he threatened, I heard a lot of people say he's threatened the president of Ukraine. There was no threat in either phone call, and he's not the kind of guy that throws threats around,
So do you think that his record and everything he's done is pretty much perfect or close to perfect, or?
Nobody's perfect, but he's probably done the best job of any president I've seen in recent years.
Wow, that's a big statement.
Look at the economy. He ran on boosting the economy, and people say he's created so many jobs. He hasn't created any jobs. He's created the environment where business can create jobs. The previous president created a climate where business wasn't so likely to create jobs.
So as an America supporter and someone who is at the moment supporting Trump, Are you worried that this impeachment trial is going to have an impact on his electability for him to get reelected in the 2020 election? I mean, are you concerned? Are you going to go out and spread the word and your views to other people?
I give my views to anybody who asks, like you do. I'm not worried so much about his electability. I am concerned that this whole process, this bogus impeachment process, is hurting our standing in the world and his ability to negotiate with foreign leaders. I think we probably would have settled the Korea and China situations if he wasn't going through this impeachment fiasco. So it hurts the country overall in our standing in the world.
And as somebody, an American citizen and somebody who's paying taxes, do you think it's a huge waste of time and money? Does this outrage you, or you think that, hey, we should go through the impeachment trial and show Americans that, or our voters are going to show what they wanted at the end of the day anyway, and then we should go through it and just finish it off?
Well, now that it started, it has to be finished. I think the right thing to do would be, once both sides present their cases, the judge should look at it and say there's no evidence here of any wrongdoing. So if this was a criminal trial, and I've been through 1,000 criminal trials as an expert witness, all the so-called evidence that I've seen presented so far is not evidence at all. It's just opinions, and emotions and opinions. That's all the Democrats have presented.
Well, let's go into your background as a counterintelligence officer, and I know this was, decades ago, but what did that experience and that work, what sort of perspective and what did you bring from that in analyzing this current situation?
The education I got in Army intelligence was priceless. It gave me the ability, the skill to analyze the situation and determine what are the true facts and make decisions based on only viewing the true facts, not emotion, not hyperbole, not any other kind of nonsense. Just drill down to what the true facts are, and then make a decision based on that.
Okay. Any thoughts on the trial right now and moments that you felt were either helping Trump or hurting him? I mean, what is your analysis of what we've seen so far?
I wasn't able to watch any of the Democrat presentation, the opening presentation.
That's funny.
It was just too stressful. But I was just really too busy to watch it. But I saw a lot of reporting done about it, and I didn't see any facts presented. The people that say he threatened the president of Ukraine, there was I saw no threats anywhere. The Republicans have so far presented, I think, a very good counter argument to whatever the Democrats started with. I think the best example for me is Alan Dershowitz, when he presented the way the writers of the Constitution, the way they envisioned impeachment working, and the way they warned against using it for political purposes. And this is totally a political presentation, what they're putting on now. When Alan Dershowitz says there was no wrongdoing, even if the president did give the Ukraine a quid pro quo, even if he did that, it's not impeachable.
Right, that's their main argument now.
So, I don't see that he did ask for a quid pro quo. He didn't use any threats. He did release the money, apparently within the same time frame as it was released to many other countries.
You're providing a lot of arguments pro-Trump, and no one can argue that the economy is good right now, whether you're Democrat or Republican. But I mean, if the economy wasn't doing well and whatnot, do you think you'd be as supportive of him, of Trump right now, or you think you'd be a little bit more, supportive of the impeachment trial and removal?
I think one has nothing to do with the other. Like I said, I judge people on performance. His performance on the economy has been exceptional. If it was just mediocre, then most presidents' economies are mediocre. So we can't throw a president out just because he has a mediocre economy. As far as everything else he's done with the military, with taking out terrorists and not being afraid to take out a terrorist, Previous presidents have had opportunities to take out presidents and refused to do it, mainly for political reasons. They were afraid they'd look bad. He's not afraid to look bad. And that's I think, what makes me have the most respect for him. He's not afraid to take chances, regardless of the consequences, if it's the right thing to do for the country.
Well, this is the third time that our country is going through an impeachment trial, and it's very divisive, and it's something that a lot of people didn't want to go into, and yet we're in it now. So what sort of lessons do you think that the country can take away from this? And now that it's ongoing, do you think it should be completed, or what do you think of where we're at right now?
Well, now that it's started, it has to reach some sort of conclusion, whether it's thrown out by the judges or it goes all the way through and then it leads to an acquittal. That's the only just conclusion that I can see, because it's all based on nothing. The two previous impeachments were based on crimes, or alleged crimes. In this one, there's no alleged crime. There's no crime. I mean, they're alleging that his actions were criminal, but they're not. And when Alan Dershowitz says there's no crime, there is no crime.
Okay. In terms of how this is affecting the country, and do you talk to people who are Republicans or Democrats, and what are they saying about this? Are they watching it? I mean, if you watch the trial, it's very hard to listen to sometimes because it's just ongoing. It just keeps going, and then it's a little bit dry, right?
I've had many discussions with lots of people of all political persuasions, and when I talk to somebody who is on the opposite side regarding the president, when I point out the facts to them, and I say, well, if this fact is true, that nobody's ever heard him say a racist remark, why do you still think he's a racist? Because 99% of the media portrays him as a racist. So I think the biggest problem for the country right now is what he likes to call the fake news media. They're spewing propaganda on the airways and in print and online when there's no evidence to support the claims that they make against him.
So you don't think he's ever said anything racist?
No more than most people I know, and everybody can make a remark. There are jokes made about every ethnic group. That doesn't mean that you're anti that group.
Mm-hmm. So when he said, when he referred to African nations as S-hole countries, did that concern you at all, or no?
I believe it's not just African countries. There are a lot of below par countries on every continent.
Okay. Now when we go back to you talking to people, right, Democrats and Republicans, do you openly share your views, or do you sort of keep them to yourself? I mean, you're an independent, but you support Trump, so are you afraid to talk about that?
I don't go out and advertise my views, but if I'm in a discussion I'm on the radio a lot, on several radio shows, and if the discussion comes up that's political or regarding the government or the military, I'm happy to give my views. I'm not afraid to give my views. That's what's great about this country. Everybody can give their views, and you're free to have totally incorrect views. Hopefully, the people that have the incorrect views don't get to be in charge.
Can you remember a time that was as divisive as it is now, and it's as, saying something could bring as large consequences?
I've never seen the country so divisive, but I think and people blame the president for that. The media blames the president for that, but it's really the media's fault. I've never seen a case where somebody wearing a Make America Great Again hat attacked somebody from the other side. But you see plenty from the other side attacking people with MAGA hats.
There's, some people can't go eat at certain restaurants. It's definitely become pretty crazy at this point.
But I've never seen a Trump supporter ban somebody from a restaurant or try and boycott them or their business. That only goes one way. It's all anti-Trump and anti the people that support Trump. But the people that support Trump are really not anti-anybody as far as I can see. I know I'm not.
We're going to take a short break from the Trump impeachment trial, and we'll be back to talk with Mike for some more.
You got a king?
Go fish. In your face, in your face, in
It
your
only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back to the Trump impeachment trial review. I'm here with Mike Porcelli, who is talking about what it's like to be an independent and watching the Trump impeachment trials. So we left off talking about a little bit about why you think his legal team is correct. Wanted to see what points you thought, besides Alan Dershowitz, that are quite strong and why America should side with the president.
I think Alan Dershowitz is probably one of the greatest legal scholars in this country at this time, and I don't think anybody disagrees with that opinion. And like I said before, when he points out all the errors in the Democrats' presentation, I think that's all we need to see. I'm anxious to see the question and answer period that's coming up.
Do you think that there should be witnesses and bring witnesses, or we don't need to go there?
I don't think there's any reason to go any further with this because this whole trial was based on made up facts. There was no basis for the trial. Look, for example, at the recent what the FISA court recently said about the search warrants on Carter Page. I believe they threw out 2 of the search warrants as invalid. So everything that whatever came from the investigation, that surveillance of Carter Page, now has to be thrown out of court. I've been through 1,000 trials and testified in 1,000 trials, and I've never seen a case where if a trial was based on totally erroneous facts, the whole thing would be dismissed in an instant. So that's really what should happen here, but I'm not the legal scholar,
So going back to his phone call to the Ukraine's president, you don't think that was a quid pro quo?
I didn't hear anything that said, if you don't do this, I won't give you the money. He said, do us a favor, do us, the country, a favor, and let's find out where the money is going, I don't want my tax dollars going to corrupt countries to go in somebody's pocket, I want them going for the purpose that they were intended for, to support our foreign policy goals. And it's the president's job to make sure that the money is well spent. I mean, one of his main jobs, his primary job is to keep us safe, which I think he's doing very well. And his secondary job is to make sure our money is well spent. And if he would just turn over the money to any country without asking any questions, I don't think you want your tax dollars going down the drain for some illegitimate purpose, do you?
Well, I mean, no one does, I don't think.
Right.
But what possible
But
government...
then he gets condemned for asking the question, Let's make sure the money is well spent, which is really all he was trying to accomplish there, right?
What possible government interests would be in having investigations of Joe Biden? Do you really think Joe Biden could be corrupt, or?
I don't think he mentioned investigating Biden specifically or his son. I think he wanted just to determine if there was corruption involved in any of the money that we were giving to the country.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And
I wouldn't care who was corrupt. We want to root out all the corruption.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at this and the election coming up, do you think this could affect? Do you think Joe Biden, for example, is benefiting from this impeachment trial, and Democratic candidates in general could be making some gains just from this happening?
I don't think anybody's benefiting from this on both sides. I don't think anybody benefits. Mm-hmm. There's an old saying in legal proceedings: the only ones that benefit are the lawyers.
Okay. Any highlights from the trial so far? I mean, it's been many days, but when people think that, what do you think they're going to remember in this long process?
I think when it's all done, the primary memory is going to be it was a big waste of time and money, which I think it is. Mm-hmm. I've never seen a case where so many people can present as factual things that are totally erroneous.
Do you think Trump is going to come out stronger from this, or like you said, no one's going to benefit in the end? I mean, you can't erase this mark from his record.
I see a lot of his supporters really becoming stronger supporters because
Including you.
including me, yeah. We don't like, in this country, we don't like to see people wrongly accused, do we? No matter who they are.
No, we don't.
And that's what's happening. He's wrongly accused. If he does something wrong, and if he would violate the Constitution in any way, then he should be prosecuted. But when Alan Dershowitz says there's no violation, how can anybody say there is? I mean, he's like the leading authority on the subject.
What do you think Trump should be doing at this time? Should he be just continuing to do his job, or should he comment on this?
Well, obviously he's continuing to do his job. He's signing treaties. He's making all kinds of announcements every day, on the work he's doing. He just announced a peace deal, a possible peace deal in the Middle East, which nobody's been able to accomplish. He's already accomplished things that other people have tried and nobody's been able to accomplish. I think he's just going to continue working, but he's handicapped now. Now he's got, because of this whole, not just this impeachment trial, but the whole 2-year Mueller investigation.
So it is affecting him, you think?
It's slowing him down, and it's tying his hands. Like I said, he could probably have settled many world issues much quicker if he didn't have all these distractions. The Mueller investigation was a big bogus distraction. This is another distraction. I think that's all the Democrats are really trying to do, is distract him and keep him from accomplishing everything that he could possibly accomplish before the election. And then they can point to him and say, look, he didn't accomplish this or that.
If we could go back in time and you could advise Trump before the call in the summer with the president of Ukraine, would you tell him, hey, we shouldn't bring this topic up at all, or, just let it be?
Well, that would imply that we're allowing our money to just be wasted, or possibly just be wasted on corrupt foreign officials.
So you think you don't take that back at all? You think you should have asked the question?
I think he should have asked the question. Maybe he could have asked it better. People complain about his language, the way he tweets, but I don't really see anything wrong with anything he says. Like I said, sometimes he could maybe word things a little better, but I don't really judge anybody by every word they say. Like I said, I look for performance, and so far I think his performance has been exceptional.
So you're ready for 4 more years of Trump?
Hopefully.
And do you think that if that happens, it's going to be, another witch hunt or something like that? We've had the Mueller, we've had the impeachment. I mean, do you think Democrats have anything else to
I
bring?
think for the country's long-term benefit, we need 4 more years of President Trump and a Republican Congress and Senate, so that they can't then continue to distract him.
Do you think that's going to happen? I mean, the country's so divided now, so retaking Congress might be difficult.
Well, like I said, I think the major cause for the division in the country is perpetrated by the press, the fake media. When they constantly claim that he's a racist, he's anti-woman, he's anti-immigrant, the man's not anti-immigrant. He just wants people to come in the proper way. I know plenty of people that came to this country legally. My wife came here legally. Her whole family came here legally. And they don't appreciate other people just sneaking across the border and getting all kinds of benefits, from taxpayers.
Do you think you said he's the greatest president we've ever had, right?
In my lifetime, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you want to see him accomplish then if he gets 4 more years?
Secure the borders.
Right, he still hasn't done that. That was his biggest campaign promise, and
Right.
it hasn't happened.
And he's been stymied by all the obstructions, all the court challenges, and he wins every court challenge, but they slow him down. He probably could have built 10 times the amount of border wall if he didn't have all the distractions and the delays caused by, court challenges that turn out to be bogus.
Well, if we build the border wall, there's a lot of, there currently have a lot of immigrants who are doing some of the labor here in America. So, I mean, that could affect our economy as well. What do you think about that?
we need to bring in as many outside workers as the economy needs. We don't need to bring in more than the economy needs, and everybody that we do bring in has to be vetted and brought in a proper fashion. I'm all for bringing in as many immigrants as the economy needs. We just want them all to come in and sign the guest book. And if they have anything in their background that makes them unsuitable to come into this country, then we shouldn't let them in. Should we let terrorists in? I don't think anybody wants that.
Any final thoughts on the impeachment trial?
I just wish the press would be a fair-minded press. You know, one of the greatest things about this country is a free press. Right now, we don't have a free press. We have the propaganda press.
That's a very Trump thing to say.
Well, it's the way I see it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us for the Trump impeachment trial review. Hopefully, we'll have you next time to continue this conversation.